maybe you saw one of my posts. I don't remember, but I kind of did even a post about Snapchat, and I think you guys reached out, something like that. I'm like, okay, I need to know more about the whole creator space with Snapchat. And I know you are already in that space, you know, a lot more than me and probably a lot more than the most brands, at least here in Europe. So I think it would be fun to talk more about how Snapchat creators works. You know, you've seen, I don't know, secrets, why even brands should work with, because in my experience, we hear a lot about TikTok, too much about TikTok, and obviously about YouTube and Instagram, but less about Snapchat. Actually, today I had a conversation with a client and they were like, yeah, we're actually trying it through, you know, a few Snapchat creators in Norway. I'm like, okay, cool. It's actually working pretty well. So, so yeah, I think, yeah, that would be fun to just start with. Like, how come you guys are just so into Snapchat creator? What's the thing? What is that we are missing? Tell me.
I think it was the most random occurrence, I would say. And I think this kind of goes back to even how Colin and I met. So, the first agency that I worked at after college, so I went to college studying business law and marketing, did not know I really wanted to get into the media space. Ended up working at an agency through an internship, got a full-time job there, and loved what I was doing. And through that agency, I was working on the beta programs that Snapchat was working on before it went public. So I was working on these things and I was like, is Snapchat making a comeback? Like, and, it wasn't public information yet. It was, we were trying to source creators. We were trying to convince them, like, hey, maybe get back on Snapchat. We'll give you a small fee to start posting. And yeah, it all kind of started with that. And then as those programs grew and as I just became more advanced in the company, I was searching for an intern and I was interviewing a bunch of people. And then I interviewed Collin and I was like, if I ever work with anybody, it's going to be this person. And honestly, we haven't been separated since that internship. But through that whole time, through the internship, through a little over 3 years that I was at that agency, everything was really revolved around Snapchat. So from kind of the uprise of it to working with brands, working with creators, executing campaigns on the platform, we kind of just got a little snippet of that before it was something that completely blew up. And yeah, it was very interesting just because it was in such early stages. So nobody really knew, is this something that's going to be fruitful? Or is this going to be what every other platform is trying to do it? And a few people make it and a few platforms don't. So then we kind of took that step and decided to do something on our own and really be the first and only people that specialize in creators and brands on Snapchat. So yeah, that's a little background on how it came to fruition because it does feel really random. Like nobody else does this. So it's like, how do you even come up with this?
No, 100%. I definitely think that, what Hope was saying when I was an intern at our previous agency and, being, a team of two essentially is what really helped me and Hope become, out and like really help our knowledge in the Snapchat space, whether it was doing campaigns or vetting creators for their beta programs. And it really allowed us to really also immerse ourselves in Snapchat overall. I had the same ideology where I'm like, what is Snapchat? Like, why is it coming back? I knew of TikTok and Instagram, but wasn't aware of the full opportunities from a brand perspective and also from a creative perspective surrounding Snapchat. So it's definitely been a great ride. And there's so much knowledge in this space that people still need to figure out. What is Snapchat? Why should we integrate it into our social and brand strategies? But that's why we're here to bridge that gap, HG.
Awesome. And so yeah, tell me, what are we missing? Like, what's so great about Snapchat, and why do you think it's kind of coming back, or I guess rising? Tell me.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go for it.
I think authenticity. I think that is my biggest selling point when talking to brands and just talking to creators is the authenticity of Snapchat creators and the level that they value authenticity is what truly separates it from a TikTok, an Instagram, or a YouTube. Because when creators are posting, they're posting the behind the scenes of their life every single day. They're posting anywhere from 40 times a day to 500 times a day, which is an extreme amount of content. And the audience that you're allowed to build on Snapchat is truly unlike any other platform, so that when brands activate across it, their audience is so much more, wanting to trust them and truly like engage in their content rather than seeing a curated video on TikTok or a sponsored, in-feed post on Instagram.
And why, like, I mean, all of that can be done also over stories, the classic Instagram stories, but how come it's so different? Like, is it because they are younger on Snap? But yeah, what do you think? Why is it 40, 50 stories like per day? Like, why is so like vlogging and all that? Why do you think they are doing that on Snapchat and not on other platforms like YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's two pieces of it. One, I think it's the incentive from Snapchat. So when they came out with what's called the mid-rolls program, pretty much what they're now allowing creators to do is earn money from their stories. Now, it is a very competitive program to get into. So you have two buckets of people that are trying to grow their page to be able to get into this program. And then you have the people that are already in it and they're earning from ad revenue. So what that looks like is people are posting pictures and videos on their story, and every, let's say like 6 frames, an advertisement's going to pop up. They start earning ad revenue from that. I honestly say it's kind of similar to YouTube in terms of like if you took a long form video and like crunched it down and made it way more casual and way more personable. That's what Snapchat is. And I also think there's a huge component of it as well of just looking at user behavior and how people interact with each platform and what people really go to each platform for. And I think it's really funny because I was having a conversation with someone and they said, when something fun or something like random and exciting is happening and you pull out your phone, you pull up Snapchat. Like you're not pulling up like Instagram stories or TikTok, or honestly, sometimes you're not even pulling up like the camera on your phone. You open Snapchat, it gets saved onto the platform in your memories that, you see 8 years ago today, which is crazy. And yeah, it's a very natural thing for people. And I think what the platform did a really good job on was taking that natural user behavior and kind of playing off on that and like enhancing that and already playing off of what people are already utilizing the platform for and kind of using that to their advantage, which is doing really well because, like I said, people are naturally already gravitating towards the platform for certain types of usage.
Yeah, it's like, I totally agree. And now when I'm thinking about it, it's like more unfiltered. Like you said, if you do a story, like an Instagram story, you kind of preparing it. Like you do different story, like the different videos, testing, oh, this is good, this is not good. And after a while, it's just not the same. I think that's why I can see the value now in Snap, like how it's just vlogging on the go. It's so different.
Yeah.
But so if they would run, a campaign through, I don't know, 10 or I don't know how many creators you would suggest, what can brands, if you think of D2C brands, maybe also larger brands, I guess they have different goals, but what can they even expect from a Snapchat creator, like in results? What have you guys seen?
Yeah. You can really see results all across the board. One, it depends, how much budget the brand is working with and how large of a creator they're able to bring onto their campaign. I will say the thresholds of Snapchat in terms of what it means to be a large creator is very different. We've seen people that have 50,000, 60,000 subscribers and they're bringing in almost 10 million monthly views, or even like 1 million views a day. It's just crazy. So I think sometimes, a lot of people fall victim to this. You see a subscriber count that might be a little bit lower and you automatically assume like, lower rates. They're a smaller creator, whatever that is, but their content is getting pushed out a lot, and it might be getting pushed out more than someone that has 10 times the subscriber count than them. So it's almost not fair to put them on an equal pedestal. So there's a lot of education that we have to do with brands on our side of like, these are the capabilities of Snapchat. This is the types of creators that you can find on Snapchat. This is how they can post on Snapchat. This is how we can develop a lead through Snapchat. So there are a lot of tools and there are a lot of capabilities that, like Collin was saying earlier, there is just that lack of knowledge right now. And that's where we're kind of stepping in and advising those brands.
And so what type of content, what type of tools are you guys then? What do you educate them on? Like, tell me more, what do you think brands are missing now and need to understand when it comes to Snapchat? I think that was super interesting with, low subscribers, but they can still get a lot of views. And I think that's also something I've seen on TikTok, maybe because these platforms want to push all these small creators to become big. I don't know if that's maybe the reason they're doing it and looking like that. But yeah, tell me more. What do you feel like the top 3 things that you always need to mention to brands that they don't know about Snap?
I would definitely say the first is just audience. Once again, circling back on that and saying the audience on Snapchat is not going to be like your TikTok or your Instagram or your YouTube to an extent where, like Hope was saying, we have someone with 11,000 subscribers, but they're reaching 15 million people in a 28-day period. If they do a sponsored ad post on TikTok and someone has, 1 million followers, are they going to get that level of engagement? Probably not. Whereas Snapchat, it could be, dependent on a significant amount of things, but they could reach, that number. I would say the second when mentioning to brands is the affordability of it when it comes to activating, where, we've seen TikTok and Instagram quotes range from the 10,000s range all the way to the high hundreds, where Snapchat, that really isn't going to be a thing because brands are going to get more bang for their buck because, a lot of creators don't know how to price themselves and don't exactly know, like, hey, what does my rate look like on Snapchat? And that is something that Hope and I figure out and really delve deep into. But lots of times brands will get more bang for their buck. And then I would definitely say the third thing when mentioning to brands is just the capability in terms of the verticals that you can put, your content, or a creator can put their content into. There are so many verticals on the Snapchat app, from stories, which is, you'll see creator content just scrolling through the app. Then there's spotlight, where it's essentially like TikTok, an endless scroll, but the engagement seems intends to be higher. And then the Discover page. So the Discover page is where you'll find verified stars and, news articles and things like that. Whereas there's so many, yes, TikTok is just an endless scroll. You have TikTok Shop now, but also with TikTok Shop, that, is getting a lot of heat because of the lack of authenticity when producing those ads. And I was on TikTok the other day, did a little social experiment, and out of the 20 videos that I watched, 11 of them were ads. So imagine 11 videos you're just getting constantly sold to. As a front-facing consumer of the platform and like the content, I don't want to feel like I'm constantly being pitched. Whereas Snapchat, when ads or paid media or activations are just like on the app, they feel more novel because it's very unsaturated and undertopped, but also they're not, forcing it at a, constant rate like a TikTok is, or, through Instagram and I see an influencer with a bag and the first word I see is like hashtag ad. It comes off very novel and people are more, receptive to seeing the product and buying it. And with Snapchat, there's a 34% more likelihood of a consumer buying a product when advertised on Snapchat because of that authenticity and because of how engaged the community is.
And
Also,
and I'm go yeah, go on. You go.
I'm so sorry. I was going to say one more thing I thought of when Colin was saying that too is just a lot of times we stress to brands as well is like the people that are moving into Snapchat now are the people that are going to win. It's like in the past when TikTok was very new and nobody knew what it was, and people were like, oh, I don't really know how to use this. Is this something that's really going to convert and do well for my brand? That's now the almost number one marketing lever in a lot of social campaigns. I foresee that with Snapchat, but sometimes it's really hard for these companies that have massive teams to be able to convince higher leadership this is something to put, an aggressive amount of marketing budget towards it. Because I personally don't see why not. It's undersaturated. Like Colin said, there's a really big play on authenticity that's really great for brands. And at the end of the day, you're getting much lower prices for these creators. And I definitely think it's a really great route to go in. And I think the brands that we've been working with now, we've seen a lot of success with them. And I think just like us kind of being first movers into the space, the brands that are going to be the first ones moving in this direction, they're going to figure out kind of all the mistakes at first and be able to flush that out really early on. And come out with really strong campaigns in the future, but they have really low competition. So you're getting a lot more results for a lot less money.
Yeah, so true. But I also think if they get to these upcoming creators that are maybe more focused on Snapchat, they start building a relationship with them. So when they become huge and big, they will still have kind of the same rates or just better deals because they believed in them in the early days. In a similar way, how they, I guess, invested in the small ones on Instagram or TikTok. So I think that's also an interesting move. Just go early and just test it out. I got super curious about the verticals because I know, on Instagram, if you would do stories, that would be best if your goal is to get sales and conversion. And then if you do reels, it's more for engagement. Like is it the same where Spotlight is for, I don't know, engagement? Yeah, tell me a little bit more about different verticals. Are any of the verticals more suitable for a certain goal or?
Yeah, I would say at the end of the day, Spotlight is like TikTok. It's a little bit unpredictable. So you can put a video on there and it might get 50 million views. And we've seen that from every size of creator. Like I could maybe post a video on there and it can do very, very well. It's all about producing and putting what Snapchat likes to call like snappy content. So using their music, using their tools, making it look like this wasn't a video downloaded from TikTok, like you made this for Snapchat, is the type of stuff that they want to be pushing out. So I would say 3 aspects of it. One, Spotlight is really good for virality. It's a really good spot to kind of have those viral hitting videos, gain subscribers that way. Stories is really great for community building. So people swiping up on your story, tuning into you pretty much every single day and kind of being able to watch, what you're doing, what you're eating for breakfast. Like you just FaceTime with friend, like talking to a camera and really being able to engage with your audience. And the last part of it as well that a lot of people don't really know about too is you can actually build a profile on Snapchat. So it looks very similar to Instagram, actually. So if you click into your profile, you can have a picture, you can have a header, you can have your saved stories with the thumbnails, the titles, like you can make it look really good. And it's almost like your portfolio of people can go in there and see what type of content they can expect from you. So just to break it down, I would say Spotlight is really for virality. Stories are really for community.
No, maybe this is a dumb question, but if you are a brand, do you need a Snapchat account? Like, should you have similar to have your Instagram account, or can you just run campaigns through creators?
Yeah.
Do you have followers in the same way?
So you
Yes.
can, and we highly recommend it. So I think that's actually the next step in terms of us as a business. So pretty much like I had mentioned to you, we're working very, very closely with creators, but also very closely with brands. That's where a lot of our focus has been for the past few months now. You don't have to have a public profile as a brand, but there's no reason why you shouldn't. So, for example, if you're going to like run paid media and run advertisements, you do need to have some sort of profile. But I would think about it this way. If you have your Instagram account and you take a photo of yourself and you run it as an advertisement to have people come and follow you and build some brand recognition, and they click on your profile and it's blank, what is the point? Pretty much. So I think brands really need to think about it. It doesn't matter if you want to or you don't want to. You really have to think of this process holistically, where if you are going to activate on Snapchat, do it right. Do it from the start. Build your brand. Build some sort of brand presence. Tap into the creators. Tap into using organic marketing, paid media marketing, and really go aggressive with that. I think we've seen it become very, very successful with some of the largest brands in the world and some local brands. It's not confining to who's successful on Snapchat and who's not. It's about who's really doing it strategically and who's doing it right.
I love it. And I mean, you both said like the prices are a lot lower. I think many listeners are like curious, like, okay, what's the CPM? Like, how cheap is it? But yeah, do you have any figures? I know there's probably no price structure at all similar to any platform, but do you have any benchmarks, something to like knowing if it's, expensive or less expensive, any CPM numbers or anything you can share that you as a brand should think of?
I would say this is always a really hard question because it's the same question that everybody asks. They want some sort of formula of, am I overpaying someone, pretty much. I think there's different levels to it because something to consider is a lot of these creators have teams, and that is going to play into whatever pricing is going to be sent to us. I think two, there will be a play into it if a creator is massive on every other platform, if they have hundreds of millions of followers across platforms and they're just starting out on Snapchat, you will most likely probably get a little bit of a higher rate from their team for name and likeliness. You're working with this person to promote your brand and they might promote it on other platforms. So oftentimes you're kind of paying for the what ifs as well, and you're paying for the name of that person. But I will say it's much more trackable when we're doing paid media. So when we're taking content and we're running it as advertisements. For example, we're working with a law firm right now, which is shocking for a lot of people because it's like, what law firm is going to want to do paid media on Snapchat? Because there is this misconception that it's all 13-year-old kids, which it's also not.
I'm a Snap user.
Because we have to remember, it was 13-year-old kids, but we all grew up and we're still the people that have the app on their phone, and we're most likely back on it, or we're keeping the Snapchat streaks, or wanting to see our favorite creator posting every single day. So there is really that audience that has a lot of buying power of 25 to early 30s that are really active on Snapchat. And I think going back to what I was saying with the client that we're working with and them being in the law space, the way that the campaign was set up is to generate conversions and generate leads and clicks onto the website. And we've seen that be as low as $3 to $4 of what it takes to get someone to click onto your website, which I'm not really exactly sure in comparison to like Facebook, but I know it's kind of unheard of in comparison to other platforms on seeing conversions and rates that are that low. Granted, there are factors that play into it of how strong is the content. We have a really great team that's watching this every single day and they're monitoring the campaign. But again, we really have to be watching the performance and being able to adjust where it needs to be and have people that are very familiar with Snapchat specific in order to keep those prices as low as possible, really is the goal.
Yeah. But how do you evaluate these creators? I know you probably have like your own pool of creators. I guess you have it in your talent pool. But how did you find them from the start? How do you evaluate them if it's a good profile or not? Because on Instagram, TikTok, TikTok, you can just see average views. That's one thing they do. Or Instagram, I guess, is engagement rate and other things, checking audience demographics. But you can get the screenshots. You have your tricks and hacks to kind of evaluate if a profile is good or not. What are the ways to do it on Snap, and how did you do it to, I guess, collect your talent pool?
I think for us, yes, just like you said with TikTok, Instagram, you can always look at analytics and see like, oh, with Snapchat, what's your average views on stories, what's your average views on Spotlight in a 28-day period or a 7-day period. But I think also for us, when we're selecting and vetting talent for either a campaign and or to join our exclusive talent pool, is what do your swipe ups on your stories look like? Is your content the type of content that does well on Snap? How Hope was saying, is it snappy? Are you very interactive? Your audience, are you, responding to your audience? Because once again, that's where Snapchat has a big play of showcasing like, hey, we really love authenticity and, community building. And so when we look for creators, we have so many creators come to us on a daily basis like, hey, we have, X million on this platform, or, we want to get onto Snapchat. I'm like, yes, that's great. But also at the end of the day, like when we look at your, specific account, are you showing that snappy content, and are you truly being engaged with your community? Because once again, the Snapchat community is not like an Instagram. It's not like a TikTok, not like a YouTube. You hear all the time YouTubers are like, hey, go spam the comments. But, is that for, for them to make more money, or for their, video to get more recognition from the algorithm? With Instagram, how many influencers are actually going into their comment section and being like, hey, thanks for this comment, or like, love you back. I think Snapchat is the only platform where it's like, hey, if you leave comments, we're going to snap, reply you back and really truly like form that relationship with our audience. So I would definitely say that's like a massive vetting piece as well. I've seen, hey, how truly engaged are you with your audience compared to, other platforms? Because we've worked with influencers all the way from, 4,000 subscribers on Snap, all the way up to, high millions on Snap, which is huge. And, at the end of the day, me and Hope and like internal team members always ask each other, like, are they truly doing their best to be a sense of community and actually truly good at building their audience?
Yeah, I remember when TikTok was kind of booming and you saw a few Instagram profiles getting onto that platform and just trying to do the same type of content, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
So you can see that the TikTok-born creators are doing a lot better, and then the Instagram, the older people, like they don't even know how to use it. And I can see how it's the same with Snap. Like you cannot just start doing TikTok or Instagram content on Snap because it just won't work. But then if you touched on it, like building community, but what is, if you would summarize, what is snappy content for those who don't know that? Maybe it's too broad or hard to explain, but like I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. In a high level sense, it's behind the scenes, FaceTime with a friend or family member content that does the best. Once again, the people going to Snapchat and truly engaged from a creator perspective or a consumer perspective are wanting to see the daily scoop of your life. So that is the type of content that does best. And, we like to explain how IG, it's a perfect aesthetic flow of the best highlights and moments of your life. With TikTok, it's curated content, and how many people and creators are truly pushing out, that many TikTok videos a day, maybe 6 to 10 on a very high end scale. And then with YouTube, it's very hard to build your audience on that platform, and you're pushing shorts out a day, maybe, 1 to 5, but, an actual long form YouTube video, maybe 1 to 2 a week. And that's like, crazy. With Snapchat, these people are posting 40 to 500 times a day. So think about 500. It's crazy, but think about like even 40, like that. Me and Hope always laugh. Like we always love to, see people's reactions when we're like, yeah, 40 to 500 times a day. Yes, there's an incentive that comes behind that. These people are getting paid because ads are being placed within their story. But, the logic behind it, the more you post, the more ads, in your stories, increasing your return in money. So, when people are posting 40 to 500 times a day, think about how many personalized life moments that they're capturing that, you as an audience can engage in.
Yeah. And that was actually when we had Instagram stories, when that was big, that was one of the metrics we talked about, saying like, if they do 40, 50 stories per day on Instagram, they are usually a better profile for you, because they are connecting with their audience. They kind of vlogging with them, like you said, FaceTiming, but they have a connection compared to someone posting like 2 stories per day and maybe only pictures, and then they only do feed posts. Nobody cares about that. Like, that's so boring.
Yeah.
It used to be fun, but now it's boring. So I can really see, first, sure, they get more money for 40, 50, but I'm sure they're doing it also because they can see that they kind of building an audience and getting a community.
I also think the insecurity of posting on other platforms at that cadence really helps separate Snapchat. I know for a bunch of people we've talked to, brand partnerships people, creators, whatever. I have yet to see someone post 40 to 500 times a day on their, Instagram story, just because, once again, Instagram has this, presence to it where it's like this perfect aesthetic grid. Maybe people who are posting for their birthdays and like the birthday shout outs, but still to a thing, like it's going all over the internet. Alex Earl actually just, talked about it on her Hot Mess podcast, where it's like, you have hundreds of people wishing you a happy birthday on your IG story. Are you going to post every single one? Probably not. You don't want to annoy your followers. It comes off as cringy. You don't want it's superficial. Whereas Snapchat, that's what they encourage. They don't want the aesthetic. They don't want like this perfected feed. They want your true, authentic self. And that's where, once again, Snapchat and the engaged audiences are, uncomparable to any other platform, because they truly, want people to just showcase their daily life, whether that's 2 stops a day, 10, 40, or 500. It doesn't matter.
Anything brands you should think about, like like avoid or something, like the biggest mistakes you do on Snap that you maybe can share, so like, save their life a little bit, or save some headache.
For me, I think my biggest piece of advice for brands when, thinking about Snapchat is having an open mind. I feel like, some brands we've talked to, it has been a primary concern of, like, isn't it just 13-year-olds? Like, why would we ever activate across that? Where it's like, no, the main demographic is Gen Z and millennial. Yes, Snapchat can have a younger skewing audience sometimes, but it can also have an older skewing, audience for, several creators that we specifically manage and just in general. So I think keeping an open mind in terms of Snapchat and taking the time when, you're thinking about contracting a creator or even like going onto a separate platform, really learning it. Because, we've talked to so many people who, I'm an expert across social media, but we get on a call with them containing Snapchat and their minds are blown. They say they have no idea, that Snapchat even had these capabilities. And I think that's where we fit in so good as HG Media, is going to market saying, yes, not only are we the first and only agency to exclusively represent these Snapchat stars, but we're also bridging the gap between brands and wanting more of a brand presence, whether that's awareness-based or conversion-based, because of these snapshot stars. So I would say that's like the biggest thing for brands to kind of just avoid is, not having an open mind and showcasing. If I'm a social media manager or a brand partnerships manager, just having an open mind in terms of discovering new platforms and integrating into it.
Yeah. I also think too, and I've mentioned this to brands so many times, is if you want to go in the direction of working with talent, try anything you can to work with creators on a longer term basis. Now, this doesn't have to be a year. You can do maybe like a 3-month partnership of some sort, but it's really hard as a user. And if we just all kind of think about ourselves scrolling on social media, even if it's our favorite creator that we watch every single day, we're most likely not going to purchase something after the first time we see it. It's just not really natural for anybody to do. And I think that on any platform, sometimes brands get disappointed when they do a one-off creator activation and they have to pay an influencer $10,000 and they didn't get $10,000 in sales from that. Where, we're not in the game of sales, we're in the game of marketing, which I really believe is very different. You have to get your product, especially if you've never advertised on Snapchat before, in front of the right eyes, in front of the right people. You have to get them comfortable and you have to start creating an environment where people start having conversations about your product or your service. So there's one creator in specific that I've been seeing. I don't know if it's a paid partnership or not, but she's starting to use this one supplement that I've just been seeing every single day now. I have no idea what it is. I actually looked into it because I was like, what is this thing? But that is a perfect example of, she just very easily was integrating it into her Snapchat story of, this is what I'm having for breakfast. This is also what's part of my daily routine. And I was probably seeing it maybe twice a week. She was posting something like that. And that awareness is doing a lot. And sometimes I feel like brands are missing that piece where they expect a lot out of a one-time influencer activation. But I think Snapchat is the perfect spot to, one, develop really strong relationships with the creators, but two, really put together a strategic and really smart marketing campaign that can really propel your product or service in an amazing direction.
Yeah, long term is always best. Yeah, I've seen that too on other platforms. But then would you both say that doing those kind of integration is best, like 3 months and maybe they kind of posting, I don't know, 1-2 times a week and just naturally doing that for 3 months? Is that usually best if you're thinking about, a D2C brand, e-commerce, selling, where the goal is basically sales? Is that the kind of a good way to integrate, or?
Yeah, I would personally say so. I think, some brands get hesitant when they've never worked with somebody before, where they're like, what if we contract this person for 3 months and we don't like it? They just make stuff that, it's not really fitting for us. One, I think if you look at any influencer's page, you should be able to tell what type of content they're making. And that's something that we vet out a lot as well. So our job is to make these brands happy. So it's really, really on our backs that we're bringing the right people to them that are going to make amazing content for these brands. So I would say I always recommend 3 months to start. I think it's the perfect time of building awareness and then getting to the point where you can actually be developing leads and conversions. Now, not saying that can't happen after somebody seeing a video one time and potentially purchasing a product, but it's not the most natural behavior. So I would say 3 months is what I usually recommend.
Nice. And just as a final topic, I know you already kind of explained a few things, like good to have a Snapchat account, first of all, but what are the things that if brands going to stop using more Snapchat and want to go this direction, what I need to have, what's the toolkit just to get started, first of all, a Snapchat account is great. But yeah, to summarize this call, yeah, tell me about that toolkit.
Absolutely. Well, I think, that's honestly why we started this company, is so we can kind of be a hub for those brands to come to us, and most likely say, hey, we want to get on Snapchat, but we have no idea where to start, no idea how to maintain it, no idea who anyone at Snapchat we can contact, and we don't know where to find these influencers. So to answer your question a little more specifically, I think when brands come to us, we always start with a few questions of, how aggressively do you want to market on Snapchat? Some people, they want to do like a little bit of paid media, see how that works, and then evaluate from there if like the product or service is really hitting with that audience, and then put more marketing budget towards it. What we've seen with bigger brands is they're very, very aggressively marketing on Snapchat. So one, they're making a brand page. Two, they're posting organic and paid content, which we're running on our side and boosting out on our end. And they're working very heavily with influencers on the platform and directly with Snapchat. Something I will say that I've been noticing a lot of these larger brands exploring is something that's very native to Snapchat. And you've probably seen it on your side as well, but Snapchat is known for its filters, its AR lenses, its very like interactive features as a platform. And we see brands like Levi's or Amazon or, Celsius. We see these brands come in and they develop these really, these really cool lenses that you can completely customize, bring on influencers to utilize from there. And then you just hope it starts to have a compounding effect. So if that influencer shares a lens, and then let's say I go in and I use the lens and post it on my story, somebody else sees it, they use it, share it with their audience. So it's like a tree that starts to form of you're just reaching millions and millions of people. So I would say, what, especially in the start, I personally think it's very beneficial for companies and brands to work with people who are professionals in the space. It's very new and a lot of people don't really know the intricacies of Snapchat yet. And like Collin said, that's why we started this company. But yeah, I would say building your brand, building a profile on the platform, and really figuring out how aggressively you want to market yourself, and then making choices from there.
It's nice. I'm already convinced now. I feel like I'm gonna talk more about Snap now with our clients. And I love all the insights you guys shared. I feel like I'm a Snap user, but I feel like I know a lot more now, and especially how the creator works. So yeah, thanks for sharing all this. It was fun to have you on.
Yeah, it was so amazing to meet you, and really, really, it was a pleasure to speak to you and bringing us on, because I think getting the word out there and really being able to communicate with brands and let them know like this isn't something that we're saying because it's our own company, to take a risk and to really drop everything in life to start something of your own and really commit to it. We saw an opportunity there. So